We've done 9 figures, eight separate companies I've started now. Every single one of them, we've hit 7 and 8 figures within the first 10 months of each. People don't buy what they need, they buy what they want, right? And so we had to figure out a way to get people to want what we have. When I was able to gather a group of people and deliver one presentation to 20 people versus 20 presentations individually, it was like inventing fire to me. And I was like, holy crap. I think a lot of Christians, man, they're playing life not to lose versus playing life to win. You could be incredibly successful at a lot of things and still feel like a failure if you're not operating for the God-given intended purpose of why you were created.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Gathering the Kings podcast. I'm your host, Chaz, Wolfe. Today on the show, we have an absolute king in sales, marketing, entrepreneurship, and the nonprofit space, Mr. Rylee Meek. He is the co-founder also of the King's Council and the host of the King's Council podcast. He owns several other businesses, which we discuss, and he has built his empire way past the 9-figure mark. We talk sales and acquisition. We dive deep on how and why you were created to create. We use Rylee's book, The Kingdom Entrepreneur 7-Day Blueprint, to talk about that. We also talk about why you need to stop waiting for life to happen to you, and so much more. This episode is absolutely packed with practical, mindset, and spiritual insights. I'm excited to finally release this to you guys. Please subscribe and follow if you haven't already. Like the video, maybe throw me a comment down below of why you are playing life to win and not playing life to lose. We look forward to chatting with you in the comments. Enjoy the show. Rylee, my brother, thanks for being here on the King's stage. How are you?
What's up, Chaz? Happy to be here, man.
Yeah, dude. You know, it's funny. We always do research, but I was doing some research on you, and you're just this ball of energy. Like everywhere you go, you got this big smile, this exuberant, just boom, here I am. So I really actually am excited for this energy of the call. But Rylee, tell us what kind of businesses that you have, and we'll get rolling here.
Oh, brother, I've got hand in a number of different things, man. I've been an entrepreneur since I jokingly say I gave my life to entrepreneurship at the age of 15 and started numerous different companies, failed at a lot of them, of course. But the main thing that we focus on is new client acquisition. I'm a firm believer that if you build it, they do not come. I don't care what that movie actually has ever said. I realized quickly that unless you have a consistent flow of leads and then ultimately sales into your business, you don't have a business unless you're actually selling stuff. It's a very expensive hobby. And so everything that we've done, well, I can't say everything, I guess, but a majority of what we've done has been through dinner seminar marketing and sales. Wow. And so, yeah, we do a lot of direct mail and we fill events with ideal clients and prospects, and then ultimately craft presentations, take people on that emotional journey to make that wise buying decision. And then we really partner. We have our own companies with this in the insurance space. Financial advisors do this a lot. We work with a ton of doctors in the regenerative medicine space. Believe it or not, in the home remodeling construction space, the aging in place, walk-in bathtubs, you name it, man. We've got a lot of different things going on, which has really afforded me the ability to invest then into other companies that aren't necessarily dinner seminar marketing, but more along the lines of HRT, peptides, things along those lines, and just fun stuff like that, man. I love peak performance. I love operating in excellence, whether it's mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and then, of course, financially as well, man. So got my hand in a lot of things.
It's awesome, man. I appreciate your intention there with the word excellence. I think that stems through what I've seen, all the things that you put your hand to, but I think that's probably going to be a big theme here between the two of us. I find myself in that same realm of going, if I'm going to put my name to it, if I'm going to do it, why wouldn't I do it to the best of my ability at the top, most peak performance that I can get to? But before we get into that, King's Council's in the background there. Obviously, we're on Gathering the King's show here. Like, what's going on here? What's the King's Council about, man?
Yeah, bro. Yeah, it's such a cool alignment too. When I started to dive into what you guys have going on as well. The King's Council. I'm a born again believer in Jesus Christ. So Jesus is King, and how we view this is we're sitting on the council, and we get to do this life. I like what you said. It's like, hey, we get to operate in excellence in everything that we do, and I believe God's greatest gift to us is life itself. And our greatest gift to him is what we do with this thing. And so this has been really over the last 4.5 years of kind of an evolution of what the King's Council is truly about. We started out as just getting some, raising my hand like, hey, does anybody else kind of have this desire coming out of the 2020 debacle of like being bold for their faith, but also just like, hey, anybody else just like feel financially? I had a lot of mindset garbage that I had to overcome with just in the business world. I'd made a lot of money over the years, and I struggled with like, could I truly operate in excellence, make a ton of dough, and still be a Jesus freak? Like, is that even possible? And I had to, I seeked a lot of mentorship and dove back into the Word of God of like, what truly does this say? Because I've been told like, rich people are greedy and evil, and money is the root of evil. And it's just like, it was a bunch of malarkey is what it actually was. When I started to read the Bible for myself and actually dove into this and started to put these things into practice. And so the King's Council, man, at the end of the day, what we are is we're a ministry. We serve as an extension of the local church to disciple entrepreneurs. And that's really what it is, man. Our goal is to help increase the tithe. But the biggest thing, man, is to initiate radical generosity. And I really believe that it's kingdom entrepreneurs that are going to be at the forefront of any change that we have, not only here in America, but throughout the entire world as well. And I just love entrepreneurship. I think from an entrepreneurship standpoint, what an important thing for people to really understand, whether they own their own business or not, I believe we're all entrepreneurs, but what the culture and society has done is indoctrinated us not to be, because the root word of entrepreneur, man, all it actually means is an undertaker. Like, it's a French word, entreprendre, pardon my French, but all that really means, man, is to undertake. Yeah. And so if you're willing to undertake that task at hand, whatever it is, you're an entrepreneur. You could be a stay-at-home mom, a dad, you could be a rodeo clown, you could be an Elon Musk. You're an entrepreneur. It doesn't matter if you're willing to take that task at hand. And what we've done is just gathered a group of like-minded people that are on fire for God, and they want to actually be an impact on this earth, which I believe we all have that ability within us, but our ability is based upon the availability. Are we going to make ourselves available? Are we going to be responsible with what we've been given? And then the last one, man, is, are we going to be accountable? Are we willing to be accountable with what we've been given? And so that's really what the King's Council is just a group of like-minded people that are here to crush business, but love Jesus at the same time.
Yeah, I love it, man. You can hear your passion. I want to just point out to the listener, obviously, that, the other business stuff, it was cool. And like, we were going to have a really great business discussion. And then the last 2.5 minutes was all like excitement and passion. And you could totally tell that you're on fire for it. So I just appreciate that. I also appreciate that you threw in their rodeo clown, because my dad and grandfather were professional rodeo clowns, believe it or not.
No kidding. I love it.
In their younger years, doing the rodeos all across the Midwest and West. Not anymore,
That's
obviously, but yeah, it's kind of funny. Okay, well, let's dive in here. There's actually a lot here to go into. I want to first talk about this idea of you don't have a business unless you have like a predictable way to get leads and sales. Like, we know this. I think it's a little bit of a cliche at this point, probably on this show, but just really for most entrepreneurs. But there's like a layer underneath that where you're like, no. Like, you don't get it. You can't scale unless you have this. So let me give you just an open forum here, just kind of tap this open and see where this goes.
Yeah, man, I love talking about this, because a lot of people that even come to us, and I'm sure you get this too, man, people come to you and they have an idea, or here's what they've been told. This is what I think culture, society, the school system, which I think is a joke, whole nother topic, but we're told to follow our passion, right? Or I remember hearing this when I was little, like, hey, if you follow your passion, you'll never work a day in your life. Right. And the older I got, I realized like that is the absolute worst advice I've ever heard on the face of the earth, because I know a lot of passionate people that are freaking broke, and they don't have anything. Couldn't rub two pennies together, but they're very passionate about what they do. But here's what I've known is the number one enemy of every vision is lack of provision. Right? You can have an incredible vision for your business, you could have a vision for your life, but dude, if you don't have the finances or the ability, the skill set to create enough value in the marketplace that's going to want somebody to pay for those services, you got nothing. Until you really figure that out, or really from a business standpoint too, we think we have this great idea, but if nobody wants it, it's not a business. It's an idea. It's a very expensive hobby. And so what I realized this, man, the first business, well, I started in the network marketing world at the age of 15.
I think we all did.
Yeah, dude. I think it absolutely. It was just this past weekend we held an event, and it was kind of a topic of conversation where it's like everybody, like, I think it's like you gotta go through that before you actually move on to different type of businesses. And I freaking love the industry. Now it's changed dramatically over the last few decades, but it exposed me and opened my mind and eyes to like just really this concept of personal development. Dude, I grew up in a town of like 1,000 people. I didn't even understand that you could think about what you think about, right? And it's like, I just thought you just went to school and then you went to college and then you figured out what you were going to do for the rest of your life, work for 40, 50 years, and then you're going to, retire and die. But then I thought of that. I was like, that sucks. I don't want to do any of that, man. And so when I jokingly say I gave my life to entrepreneurship, I had a lot of cool ideas. I love health and fitness and nutrition, but I quickly realized that even in the personal training world, when I started that at the age of 18, I was like, yeah, I'm excited to train clients, but nobody paid me money for it. And I was like, why don't you guys want to pay me to help you? And so I realized that, people don't buy what they need, they buy what they want. Right. And so we had to figure out a way to get people to want what we have. And so from that point on, I went from business to business to business and tried different things, which I think is important for us if you're starting out young to try things, right? With the mindset of training, though. I think a lot of people say they try things, which is really just preloading an excuse of why something didn't work.
That's right.
Versus if you take on this mindset of like, I'm in training, no matter what it is that I'm going to do it with all my heart, right? And I'm going to operate in excellence. And if it doesn't work, no sweat. I learned how it didn't work, and I'm going to move on to the next thing.
That's right.
And the biggest thing that I found out through that was just like, I looked as an opportunitist, an entrepreneur opportunist. I was looking at the marketplace and saying, okay, where are people heading? What's needed that's out there? Not something that I'm passionate about, but if I could follow opportunity, but always bring my passion with me, I'm never going to fail in this. And so this is how I just kind of came across this concept of doing seminars and gathering groups of people, because I'd sold a lot of one-on-one, and
Sure.
which is great. I mean, I learned a ton through that on why and how people make decisions. But when I was able to gather a group of people and deliver one presentation to 20 people versus 20 presentations individually, it was like inventing fire to me. And I was like, holy crap. Like you could actually, it was like, you could leverage time and your marketing efforts. And and that was this had been in 2011. This had been my first $1 million year. So in 2011, I was 26 at the time. And it was incredible. And I realized that, dude, the things that I was selling at that point in time was insulation to literally like into homeowners, LED lighting. Bro, still to this day, I do not know, and please don't tell me what the R stands for in R value of insulation, but I've sold probably $30 million in it. And so, and again, it wasn't that I didn't have to be an expert on the product or their service. I just found something that people wanted. And I was like, all right, can I help? Can I fulfill this? And then can I get them to help make a decision on that? And so, and that's why I've just loved that. I love marketing. I love the marriage of marketing and sales, because one without the other just doesn't work long term. And so the marriage of those together has, like I said, allowed us to do multiple different products and services and businesses, but we focus on that alone is new client acquisition. I know if I have a continual flow of new leads, I'm never going to run out of sales opportunities. And I kind of equate it to like going to the casino. Dude, if I go to the casino and I know every third quarter that I put in, I'm going to get $1 back, I'm never going to stop putting quarters in. Never, ever, ever. And as for business owners, if you find that model, just freaking pour gas on it. Find out how you can put 6 quarters in, 9 quarters in, right? And really get this thing to grow and ultimately scale. And so Yeah, man, it's again, it's following your passion. Don't follow your passion. Follow opportunity, but always bring your passion with you, and you're always going to be able to show up in excellence and provide value to your customer, your client, patient, whatever it is, whatever industry that you're actually in.
Yeah, I love the excitement that you have for the marketing and sales process. There are some personalities or maybe some people who are maybe more operations driven. They're listening to you right now going like, if I only understood what that meant. Like I get it, but maybe I don't understand how to go do it. I'm just good at executing the thing, whatever the thing is that they're selling. And so what would you say to that person? Like, obviously what you're saying is you gotta market, you gotta get in front of people and you gotta get them into your pipeline. And that truly does solve everything. For many, many years, I've said sales solves everything. Of course, on the back end, you have to have like quality product and, a lot of caveats there.
Of course, yeah.
For that guy who's more operations driven, how does he step into pressing on this gasoline, if you will? Because I'm nervous, right? Like I understand, like I do this and I get a lead, and then I do that, but then I lost money, and then I did that and I lost a lot of money, and it's just like I don't really know what to do, and I don't know where the gasoline is. Help me out, Rylee.
Yeah. That's good, man. I think that comes back to your mindset of if you're an entrepreneur, maybe you're more operationally driven, which is great, but then you either need to, if you have time, then you need to become an expert at that, right? And I think every entrepreneur, to some extent, you have to be involved with new client acquisition to some extent, right? If that's not your focus, you then need to partner with, or you need to hire that on. So if you have the finances, the resources to do that, then absolutely you need to do that. But here's where I think people fail or struggle in this concept is that they try a lot of things and they're like, well, let's just see what sticks. And there's never any follow through with that, or they never get enough traction because they're doing 16 different things and they're not tracking those metrics on like what actually is working. Yep. And so I love the idea of having something that's predictable, right? When in our model, I know if I've got to go make 100 grand, I know exactly what lever I have to push to make that happen. So if you can have a predictable marketing system and sales system into your company, and then one that's sustainable, right? We can dial it up. We can slow it down when maybe we're bogged down, or the fulfillment's just not happening. And then one that ultimately is scalable. It's really what we call our system. It's predictable, sustainable, and then a scalable selling system into your business. So if that's not your skill set, that's fine. And if you have time, make it a skill set. And it is something that can be learned. I didn't know how to do any of this crap when I was younger. It was just like, all right, I just started talking to people. But then what I did is I paid for coaching. I paid for mentors that either had gone before me, right? And they didn't even have to be light years ahead of me. They just had to be a half a step ahead of me. If they knew a little bit more than what I knew, I was able to take some of that value and then implement that into my business. And so yeah, but if you don't have time, then hopefully you've got money, right? Because you're gonna have to give on one of these things where you're able then to either completely hire somebody out to run that for your company, or that mentorship, like I had mentioned before. But either way, you got to dial this thing in, right? Because most things, and this isn't for every business, but most products, most services out there, for the most part, are a commodity, right? Unless you're like this unique unicorn of an app or something like that. And it's only a matter of time then until they have other options, right? We see this in every new platform that gets developed. But so if it's a commodity, like, why would they buy it from you? Why in the world would somebody pay a premium for your product or your service? And if you're not charging a premium, then you're just hanging down, with everybody else and they're price shopping. You're just whoring your stuff out for peanuts, and you're not getting paid the value that you should be worth. But that again comes back to this mindset here of, am I worth what I'm paying, or am I worth what I'm charging my end user? And if that's your struggle, then come back to mindset. Everything. You just hire a mindset coach. Get around those like mindseted people that are willing to push you to charge the appropriate price points that are needed.
Yeah, I love it, man. I was just talking to a contractor actually earlier today, and we were talking about lead flow. And I had actually turned him on to a couple of different sources of ways to get leads. This was maybe a month or two ago, and I met him through another person. So I don't know him super well, but spent a little bit of time with him. gave him some different ideas, and followed up with him to say, how are things going? And he had stopped doing them. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Did you have metrics? Can we talk about what happened? Because you turned them off because they weren't working. And he was like, no, I don't have any metrics. It's like, oh, got it. So it might have been working, or maybe you just didn't do it long enough, or maybe you weren't doing it properly. We don't know actually where in the sales process it broke down because you didn't track anything. Got it.
Yes.
Talk about that for just a half second, because you tipped on it a little bit, but this is big. I can go get leads, but if I don't know what to do with it, then it doesn't matter anyway. I'm just going to spend a bunch of money, and now I'm going to blame the leads. The leads are bad, but they're not. What do I do?
Yes. Yeah, man, you cannot manage what you don't measure. And if you're not measuring those things from, somebody just raising their hand, and it's, this has become obviously very popular from an online, placing ads, generating leads, getting them, where within your funnel did they drop off? If you're not managing those things, if it doesn't have to be you, hire that out. There's experts that's just what they do. I don't do all this stuff myself. When I started out, I had to, though. If you're a solopreneur, you are freaking everything. You are marketing, you are sales, you are fulfillment, you are accounting, you are HR. And that's the beauty of the position that you're in, because you get to learn all those different things. And again, if you don't have the time, hire that out and actually then set these weekly calls up, let that you go through them. And when we're first launching a new product or a new service now, those are daily calls. Sometimes they're hourly text of like, hey, this is when we posted this ad, this is what took place. But if you're not actively in that role, you're going to end up wasting a ton of money. And if you have an unlimited budget, by all means, go for it. But even then, it's idiotic to just throw money at things that aren't actually producing, right? I think of every advertising dollar is a seed, and it's either falling on good soil or it's falling on the concrete, and it's getting, washed away with the next rain. And so unless you know where those things are landing, and that comes back to just identifying who's your customer, right? Who in the world buys your products and your services? And then it's like, all right, where are they? Whether it's geographically, or where are they shopping even? Is it online? Is it offline? Is it and it doesn't have to be like spending money on ads for that, but it could just be doing JVs and partnering with people that already have your existing client list. And that's fun. I love doing that, man. In strategy sessions of just like peeling back the onion and really identifying who is your customer. Not even who you think it is, but if people haven't done like kind of a reverse analysis of who are my actual people that are paying me money, because we even find this out with the King's Council, which is, it's a nonprofit now, but I'm still measuring those things. It's still like, I'm not interested in going and talking to 3,000 people, 3,000 women that are into crocheting. Yeah. I ain't gonna do that because it's not gonna make sense. Maybe they have a husband that, or have a desire to get into entrepreneurship, but it's really just identifying who is that true client and then focusing your efforts there. But managing those things, bro, I mean, it more than anybody. That is the lifeblood of your business. If you're not measuring those, you're not going to be able to manage any sort of growth within your business.
Hey, Kings and Queens, Chaz Wolfe. I want to talk to you about something that's super important to me. We put a lot of time and effort, we meaning myself and my team, into this podcast, into the content that goes out every single day. And if you have been getting any sort of value or insight from this, we want it to be able to reach other business owners too. So we would love if you would like, comment, share, leave a review, post, share again, all of the things on social media, on all the different platforms, or even on the podcast mediums of Apple and Spotify. We would love to be able to get our content into more hands, more entrepreneurs, so they can grow their business as quick as possible. Together, we are building a community of like-minded entrepreneurs who are committed to growing their businesses to new heights. So let's do this. Let's help each other grow. That's right. Yep, I love it. Well, this has been good child's play for the two of us, kind of get things warmed up, sales, acquisition, both of our kind of strong suits. I love it. But I'm going to pull the gloves off and we're going to switch. We're going to take a hard right here. Clearly, you know what you're doing when it comes to business. I think my research said that like either 9 figures or multiple 9 figures in the last decade, like just like an absolute player. So I appreciate that perspective. I think I've given you plenty of on-ramp here to show the audience that you know your stuff. let's put our entrepreneur hat on underneath faith for a second. And your first book, The Kingdom Entrepreneur, Part 1, is 7-Day Blueprint, God's Proven Template. And you talk about this 7-day template, and you follow as a creator that was created by the capital T creator. Talk about this template, because we're going to go down this road here for a second as being a creator like the creator, or being made in his image even. I've got some thoughts here as well, but just open up this topic for us.
This was shared to me from a former mentor of mine a few years ago, and I was like, oh, that's a cool concept. But again, it wasn't until I actually really dove into this that, in the book of Genesis, in the beginning, God has given us a template on how to create. And if he is the original creator, right, which I believe he is, and if I believe everything that's in the Bible, I look at this thing as an operating manual, right? A lot of people, it's like this narrative story, or there's cool concepts. But today, this thing is my operating manual. And it wasn't always. It was me rushing to do things. And obviously, I had a lot of certainly some success with it, but I had a lot of fears and a lot of heartache and things as well. Read through Genesis chapter 1. There's days in which God created, and then the seventh, which we know as the Sabbath or rest, God gave us this template. And so I won't go through it its entirety, but the book says that in day one, first off, God spoke everything into existence, which is freaking radical if we really think about the power of words that we have, and we speaking, over our children, over our businesses, and there's such power within that. But then as you go into each day, day one, for example, it said, God said, "Let there be light." And when I first read that, and I think most people, we just did a conference this past weekend, there's 300 people in the audience, and I asked, what is light? When you think of what light is, the only thing that people threw out was, well, the sun. But as you continually read, the sun was not created until day 4. So this got me really going of like, what in the world? Because scripture also tells me that God is light. And so then I'm like, whoa, what in the heck does this actually mean? And as I dove into it, when we read God said, "Let there be light," I think of this as like, it's him casting his energy, or what we equate to vision, right? And here's the cool thing. I love it when science actually backs up the Bible, which it does every single time, literally every single time. The universe is actually still expanding at the speed of light today, which is so cool. But when I think about this, God had a clear vision for what he was actually creating. He knew it. And what's so cool, as Christians, we know that in the very next chapter, Genesis 3, Adam falls, right? And now there's sin in the world. And I thought on this, like, God, man, if God is Alpha and Omega, if he's like, he's beginning and end, he's omniscient, he knows everything, why in the world would he still create if he knew we were going to jack this thing up? And what really dawned on me was that, his vision was so strong of what he was going to create to be in relation with us. It was so strong that it was going to give any sort of pain in his life purpose. And so this is where we spend so much time on, and like, what is the vision that you have for your business, for your life? And this template, man, isn't just for business. It's for create a meaningful life. If you want to have an incredible marriage, follow this template. But here's the coolest thing. We serve a God of structure and order, and he created very specifics on very specific days. And if one of those days was created differently or before the other, it wouldn't have worked, right? And so there's vision. Day 2 said God separated the heavens from the waters from above and the waters from below, and essentially created the atmosphere, right? And this is what, like, the culture that we're creating. Who are you surrounding yourself with, right? Are you plugged into mastermind groups like yours, listening to us like this, that you're reading, books, you're consuming things, you're creating this atmosphere that will allow you to then move into day 3, which we call structure. This is where God actually pulled back the waters and created land and then vegetation. So he was creating what I believe was just like our playbook. So it's our structure in our business isn't like a business plan. I think most business plans are silly because they never work according to plan unless you're trying to go raise money or get an SBA loan. Business plans are silly. We need an operating manual. We need a playbook, like on the daily basis. What are your SO? How are we building this thing? Which flows into day 4, which is actually where the Bible says that God, this is where he created the sun and the moon, and he placed the stars in the sky and created what we know as time, right? Just after this 24-hour cycle. So order is the implementation of the structure, right? We've written the playbook, and now this is where we're managing things. We're measuring, our marketing dollars and things like that. Or even if in a relationship, this is where you're actually playing or walking out date night with your spouse, right? You're actually doing these things that you've planned accordingly, which allows us to get to day 5, which we consider momentum. And in the Bible, what it says in day 5, it says God created the birds of the air and the fish of the sea. So we weren't created yet. No other mammals were created yet. And this is where I was like, dude, why would he create the birds and the fish? What's the meaning behind this? And what's cool, man, if you really think through this, the birds of the air were able to, not to get in, but they were able to defecate, right? And that was the fertilization for the vegetation to grow. But also when they would do it over the water, it now created algae, it created coral, it allowed the fish to have something to consume so that the birds could eat the fish. And this could now create a momentous cycle of life, right? And this is where I failed, and a lot of my businesses starting out is I skipped over creating culture and atmosphere. I skipped over the play. From the movie Old School, I was like, we're going striking, right? Like, we're going to the yard, bro. And as I ran to that, I realized that foundationally I didn't have anything set up in my business. And so I had a huge spike of leads and sales and income. And then it started to fizzle out, which I lost momentum, right? Which then led into day 6, which is multiplication. This is in Genesis 1:28, says to go forth, to be fruitful, to have dominion on this earth. And that's what I believe is our mandate. If any Christians listening to this, they've heard of the Great Commission, but this is the original commission. Before sin had even entered the world, this is what the intent was for us to have dominion on this earth. And as entrepreneurs, kingdom entrepreneurs, this is what I believe our mandate is we are to be fruitful, number 1, whatever it is we put our hand to. We're to be fruitful. A lot of people think this is just like making babies, and making babies, it's raising them that's hard. But we are to be fruitful. But in order to multiply and actually have dominion, this is more about culture. This is like, what's the ultimate culture? And for the King's Council, it's like this kingdom culture to have dominion on this earth, and take to the ends of the earth. Jacked it up, like I said, and the last day is day 7, rest. Which again, this isn't this template. It's not like God got tired. He didn't like create for 6 days and he's like, dang, man, that was hard work. No, he created this as a model for us to follow. Because in the New Testament, it says that the Sabbath was created for man, not for God, right? But it's set apart. And this is, again, why I think it's a model that we are to follow. We have to rest. And that's I think the biggest struggle for a lot of entrepreneurs is we're grinders, we're hustlers. We're like, if it's to be, it's up to me, right? And there's such in taking that time off. It just has to be a day, right? But that one day of rest and reflection and reviewing what we're doing allows us to pour gas on things, and to really continue momentum that we've actually created. So that's it, a high level overview, man. In the book itself, we get into the nitty gritty of that and how to actually implement that, again, whether it's into your business, your home life, any relationships that you have as well.
Yeah, we'll put on links to your books below, so if they are interested in that, they can grab that. But this concept of creating, and you've taken it a step further and really gone, well, if I'm created, then let's follow the map from the creator. Okay, great. And so you've laid this out, which I think is amazing. But for the person that's listening right now that maybe they're a Christian, maybe they're not, but they're having this like confusion around, well, like I'm not the creator. And so like there's this marriage, or maybe even dance is a better word that I have found as a believer, where it's like I'm receiving blessing or favor, but also I'm creating. And what I have found actually more in the church is the sit, wait for blessing and favor, because I'm not the creator. I'm just the little old created, where I hear you and me saying, whoa, 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 wait a second. No. You're made in his image, the image of Elohim, the creator. And so get off your hiney and start creating. Talk about this for a second.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Dude, there's nothing more annoying to me than hearing that, oh, I'm just waiting on God, I'm just waiting on God. And while they think there's some righteousness in that concept, man, that is like God sitting there going, no, I'm waiting on you. I've already given you everything to go forth and to be fruitful. But if we don't take action on these things, he can't do anything through us, and that requires faith, right? And the Bible tells us that it is literally impossible to please God without faith. And I kind of equate faith to risk, right? It's like we as entrepreneurs, creators, we have to take risks, right? And if we actually believed, again, as Christians, if we believed truly in what we were doing, don't you think we should be the ones that should be leading the charge on this and taking quote unquote risks, because we have faith, not in faith itself, but we have faith in the creator, that he's given us a vision. And I believe if he's given you the vision, no doubt he will give you the capacity to fulfill that vision. But it takes you getting off your rear end and actually doing something about it. I love it. And in creation, God created everything that was ever going to be originally created. And from there, we then are the ones that get to go do everything else that's been created from that time has been from those 6 days, right? God never made a table in his whole life, but he made a tree, right? God's never made a car. But he created oil, put oil in the ground that allowed us to turn that into rubber and melt it down and create these incredible things and tools that we have at our disposal now. And so he really, and even from a work concept, he created us to work. A lot of people think that work is a curse. That's not what it says in the Bible. It says that when God created Adam, he put him in the garden to work it. That was the original plan and intent. Okay. Now, through the fall, it says now by the curse of your, or by the sweat of your brow, the ground is cursed. So by the sweat of your brow, you're going to toil and you're going to sweat, and it's going to be hard, right? And so yes, it is going to be hard, but the cool thing as for Christians, what we believe is that, hey, Jesus returned. And when Jesus actually returned, he wasn't preaching anything other than the kingdom. He said, the kingdom of heaven is here. And so when we invite him into this pride, into our lives, into our hearts, and then we start to take on this kingdom mindset, we then get to, again, co-create with our creator. So incredible wisdom, incredible knowledge can be given to us, but it still takes us to freaking get to work and do the hard things that we're called to do so that we can continue this creation process. And there's just, I could go on and on about just this where I think Christians, and I just say I am a Christian, man, but they're the hardest people to work with. They're the hardest people to coach. They're the hardest people to, because they have these mindsets that just like, they're like, oh, I don't want to be greedy. I don't want to have too much. Like, are you freaking kidding me?
Right.
You say, if you believe the Bible, I question their faith in any of it, because if they don't believe that stuff, what are you even doing? Right? Just go get a job, go sell insurance, go do something else than actually try to build a business, because God wants those that are willing to take risks and actually like be willing to go put their life on the line sometimes for these things. Not literally, but it's like, hey, this is like everything. We've got a second mortgage on our home to build this business. Whatever it is, they're willing to take those risks because they believe the vision is strong enough in what they're providing to the marketplace that it's going to work. And like I said, Christians are the hardest ones to actually work through that process, because they think that it's really just this mindset block that if they get too much, they're going to be greedy, and they're no longer a good Christian, which it couldn't be further from the truth. God gives to us according to our ability, right? And if we aren't able to handle those things, then by all means, yeah, we shouldn't continue to grow those things. But this is where I think, masterminds like yours, man, and just gathering groups of people, gathering the kings to come together that are willing to be on mission, really take this thing seriously of life, and run this race, run it hard, because we only get one of them.
There's a picture that I got, I don't know, maybe probably 12 or 15 years ago, and I had a little circumstance happen in my life. I met my biological father for the first time. I didn't know who he was. I thought somebody else was my dad. He had no idea I existed. And so through that, crazy story, but through that, it was this picture of the Father's heart, and like the Father, capital T, capital F, the Father's heart, and like what he had for me, what God has for me, Chaz. And as I now have children, I didn't then, this has become, full circle for me, which I'm sure it has for you. But everything that you're saying, as far as like the not wait, like get up and do, and be a co-creator, I imagine this with my own children, even though that they're young. I've got 4 under the age of 10. But when my daughter creates something, like literally creates something out of cardboard boxes, and is like, Dad, look, it's like, wow, this is amazing. It's not like she came to me and said, Dad, I was thinking about making something, and is this the right type of glue, and what color should I use? And maybe I'll just wait for you to get done for work, and then you can tell me how to do it. It was no, she just went and did, and then showed it to me. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. You created this? And we went through each individual little thing that she created. And you just see this, just exuberant energy coming from her because she created this thing. And so I liken that to this piece that we're talking about here, as far as being co-creators. It's like, well, first off, if I'm made in his image, that means I operate like he does, right? Doesn't mean that, and actually I was just having this conversation with my wife a couple weeks ago. It's like, as soon as I say Christ-like, I want to become like Christ, Christians are like, hey, yes, amen. But as soon as I say God-like, they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And it's like, well, wait a second. Wait a second. It says I'm made in his image. Like, I can create. Like, this is how he's made me. And so what has, I think, beneficial for me, but also I think for others, is if I just see it as a good father, why would he? No, this is not accurate at all. He's waiting he wants me to go make choices. In fact, he actually even wants me to go maybe make a mistake or two and then come back and go, oh, bummer, and engage even in the bummer, right?
Absolutely, man. Yeah, you hit it dead on there, man. Our perspective of God will either bring out the best of us or the worst of us. It comes back to just perspective. And I read this in the parable of the talents so well, because, if for those that don't know what that is the story essentially is, hey, there's a master and he's going to go on a journey for a period of time. And so it says that he gives back to their ability. He gave to these 3 servants according to their ability. He gave one of them 5 talents, 1 2 talents, and 1. The one with 5 put it to work, and he doubled it. The same with the one with 2, put it to work, he doubled it. And then the one with 1 buried it. And when the master returned, he came back and was like, hey, now we have to be accountable, right? And we're all going to be held accountable to this at some point in time in our life. And the accountability, if you've given your life to Christ, that the accountability portion of it is not like, am I getting into heaven or not? That's not what that judgment day is. It's going to be this, in which he comes back and says, hey, what did you do with what I gave you? And to the guy with 5 who doubled and the guy with 2 who doubled, his exact words were, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with the little. I'm going to entrust you with more. Enter into the joy of your Lord. And the guy with 1, when he came back, he didn't double it. He didn't even bring anything to the master except an excuse. And this is what it was. He said, I knew you to be a hard man, and you reap where you don't sow. And so what I did is I just buried it so I didn't lose it. And this is where I think a lot of Christians, man, they're playing life not to lose versus playing life to win. The guy with 5 and 2, they're like, nah, I've been given this talent. I've been given this a skill set, this ability. And this is more than just money. And this is why I love that it's even called the talent. because a talent back then was a significant amount. It was like 6,000 denarii, which is a lot of money back then. But I love that it still says talent, because it's like, maybe you have an incredible singing voice, right? Maybe you have an incredible ability to make things. You're an engineer, right? And you're not that sales and that marketing guy, but did you steward that well? Did you do that? But it all comes back to their mindset, right? And how they view their perception of God. And if you've grown up in the church and you've been indoctrinated with this, that like God is like this nasty guy that's only there to like check the box when you do bad things, right? And a lot of this comes back to just the mindsets that we create, right? Whether we grew up with a father, or we grew up with a butthead of a father, or the different one that was like willing to encourage you and willing to go above and beyond. And when we take on that mindset of like, truly our God, our creator, is a loving God, and he does want what's best for us. He allows us to go through crap because truly that's what's best for us. And it's testing us and refining to go through the motions of life, but not just to coast, to take intentional action throughout life and steward those appropriately. But if your mindset is not of that, man, now you become a victim, which is 99% of this population. It's like, everything's happening to me and against me versus happening for me. And that's that mindset shift that's so key, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, but especially if you're an entrepreneur and a business owner, the crap that's happening to you is happening for you if you take on that mindset. So I love it, man. That's a great analogy though of you and your daughter. And I have a daughter as well. And it's the same thing. I love it when she, when she messes up. But for me, the other week, I'm downstairs here, and this is where I record our podcast. And I'm down here, and I'm prepping for some content, and all of a sudden I hear and obviously she dropped something and it shattered. And I'm kind of like, okay. But here's the very first thing I heard, Dad. And that warmed my heart so much, Chaz. Like, how amazing that her first response wasn't to hide it from me, or to not thinking that I'm going to be like mad at her or upset with the situation. It was her calling out to her father. And we all have a father in heaven who asks us and wants us to call out to him when crap is hitting the fan. We need to be the ones that are like, Dad. And he is there to pick us up whenever the crap hits the fan.
A lot of the mindset that you've given here, whether, again, Christian or not, for sure entrepreneurs, but it's fear. It's fear-based. Even in the parable of the talents there, he hid it because of fear. And I loved how you even said for those folks that maybe have grown up in the church and been indoctrinated, because that's truly what it is, where it's like there's this fear. It's fear-mongering. The news does it. Unfortunately, religion does it. And it's like, I'm going to fear you into certain actions, as opposed to, come on in here. Let's bring you home. That's what the Father does, right? And then out of a response, out of co-creating, out of the fact I want to honor what I've been given, now I have maybe no zero fear, but I have less fear, or I have more confidence, right? And so last little kind of major topic here I want you to kind of open up for us, and then we'll end up here. But this like fear versus confidence, especially even in the church, because I see believers, and then even more dialed in here, believers that are business owners. And it's like, but if I run too hard, or if I make too much money, or if I achieve too much, or if I dominate too hard, then there's this like arrogance and a lack of humility. And okay, maybe some of those things could be true for some people, but it's not the exact equation. Just like you said earlier at the beginning of the show, that money is the root of all evil. It's like, that's actually not what that scripture says either. And so I'm talking fear versus faith, but I'm also talking, being able to, maybe to overcome some of these like boxes that we've been put in. Let me just kind of open it up for you and see where you want to take it with that.
Yeah, man, I love it. You even said the word confidence, which I think if you look at the root word, I love diving into like the root of these words. Confide is the root word of confidence. And when we think about why we don't have confidence, it's usually because we know what we're actually like on the inside, right? And the only people that we confide in is ourselves. And so when something new comes at us it's like we don't take the risk, we don't take the challenge because or we don't step up to the plate or even verbalize that, hey, we're going to go do this, because we know we are the only ones that know every lie we've ever told. Right. And so as an individual, and so when you confide in that, right, you no longer have the confidence to actually walk this thing out in life. And so and back to even the fear of it. So then we operate in fear because of maybe what other people are going to think about us, or, you know, the Instagram haters are going to say, or whatever it is, which is all just garbage at the end of the day, because I play for an audience of one. And I don't really give a rip what anybody else thinks about me, because their opinion it doesn't matter, right? I'm operating for an audience of one, and that's the only opinion that I actually care for. And with that being said, Scripture tells us that God does not give us a spirit of fear, it's interesting, right? It's like, if God doesn't give us a spirit of fear, why do I have this fear or anxiety well up inside of me? And it's getting back to just understanding the only fear that we really should have is the fear of God, right? And this isn't like this scariness of him, but it's more of an awe or a reverence of who he is. The God Almighty that created the entire universe from just speaking the words. Like, if we really grasped that, if Christians really grasped that, holy cow, like we should take this thing way more serious than it actually is, and be willing to take those risks, to step out in confidence, and actually have bold action, right? Like, we're going to boldly go where no one has gone before, because of who our God is, not because of anything else. And and with that though, man, this is the power of community, right? And growing. This is one thing that I've learned. If you want to, I'm sure others have said this before, but if you want to go fast, it's easy to go alone. But if you want to go far, you got to go together. You got to gather the kings together, and you've got to do life together, to be accountable to each other, be willing to be open and vulnerable, to call me on my BS when I'm acting like a little girl in this situation. It's like, no, buck up, buddy. You said you were going to do this. Have confidence in what you're doing, and continue to take action. And action, I think, is the biggest thing, man. Action brings clarity. No matter what the decision is, if it's like, well, I don't know if I go this way in my business or this way, and you're stuck on the fence. Well, at the end of the day, the enemy owns the fence. And if you don't actually get off that thing one way or the other, you will forever be bound to that fence. So get off, pick a side. And what I mean by when it brings clarity, even if it was the wrong decision, at least you found out quicker than not getting off the fence, right? Because yes, action brings clarity, but reaction reveals character. And what happens when that was a bad decision, now we gotta there's a fork in the road again. It's like, what am I going to do? Do I just fold this thing and quit and go back and get a job? Heck no. If you are a man of character, right? Now it's the reaction time. It's like, all right, back up. Let's get on the other side of the fence and let's get to work here, because I just figured out a way that didn't work. But that comes back to the mindset, right? I love the concept of, Edison, who invented the light bulb, said that he figured out 1,000 ways it didn't work before eventually one day it worked. And if we have that mindset and just taking that on of like, okay, I'm going to continue this thing until I figure it out, not give up too soon, right? Now, there are just bad ideas in business. This is important in community too, to be able to have a coach or a mentor that's willing and be willing to take feedback like, bro, that's not a good idea. I mean, we've got to put those people in our life as well. But then we need those that are willing to say, yes, great idea. Let's freaking go. I got your 6, and now we go to town together. And so that's just what, again, I love about your community, man, and what you're building, what you're doing here with like-mindseted people, that it's just like, when you get on mission and collectively come together, there's not a whole lot that can stop a full-fledged force of what's actually taking place in the business worlds.
Exactly. I was gonna say, you've got so much passion towards operating, and it's like as if you operate without fear. We all know that there's this thing that stirs up in each one of us. And I think that it's a muscle at this point where you've just simply said, no, thanks. Appreciate you, but no, thanks. And so I think for the listener, it's just cut it off. Like you don't just, hey, don't bury it, don't do it, right? And that's not what I'm hearing you say. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I'm hearing you say grow a strong mindset and get around other people who can help you massage the muscle of operating in faith over fear. And if we can really go into what you were saying a few minutes ago, maybe 6-7 minutes ago, it was faith is really this belief, but it's coupled with action. I can believe, I can say, sure, that's powerful. We learned that in chapter 1. But it's what came after that is all these elements of implementing all of the spoken words that we can follow in the template as you have it in your first book. So, Rylee, I got one last question here for you. I want to know because you've lived a lot of life, man. You've done different business exploits. You've helped a lot of people. You've seen a lot of things, a lot of experience. And so, if you could talk to the younger Rylee, just roll back the clock and you tap him on the shoulder and you whisper in his ear, what would you tell him?
Yeah, man. I think when I was young, 15, I jokingly say I gave my life to entrepreneurship. I actually gave my life to Christ shortly after that at the age of 16. And I was surrounded by just a great group of people for a few years in my life. And as I started to make money and experience, quote unquote success, I found myself doing a lot of stupid things. And I lost a lot of really what I would call just discipleship in my life. I no longer was putting myself in those the environments that I once was. And so the power of community and being willing to be vulnerable with each other and being willing to grow with each other, I think is so powerful. Money is a great magnifier. That's what I've realized. And when I started to make a lot of it, I realized I wasn't that great of a dude. And but thank God he allowed me to grow through it and never took his hand off of me. And finally, really was only been about 4.5 years since he woke me up again to say, what are you doing, dude? Because I realized you could be incredibly successful at a lot of things and still feel like a failure if you're not operating for the God-given intended purpose of why you were created. And that was me. I was like a fish out of water, just like grasping for the next thing to the next thing. And this is why I think was, I used it, I channeled it to seek success, to seek fulfillment that always left me unfulfilled. And that allowed me to you mentioned we've done 9 figures in eight separate companies I've started now. Every single one of them, we've hit 7 and 8 figures within the first 10 months of each. And that's allowed us just to grow rapidly. I rushed to that momentum, but I didn't foundationally have anything in place. And so staying true to the community and being willing to surround yourself with like-minded people is important. If I would have did that throughout that growth period, I truly believe I'd be at a B now, and it wouldn't be just in the 9-figure mark. But I'm only 38, and so I get to start fresh. And this is what we've been building for now for the past 4 years of just understanding why I'm building business and what the real intent is behind it. But I didn't have that for a long time. And it came back to just being willing to be in rooms like what you're building and being willing to be vulnerable with those like-minded people.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more for obvious reasons, but the King's Council is an inspiration for not only just today's podcast, obviously a lot of the mindset I'm sure that you share here today, that you go in depth inside of that. So if someone's listening here today, they're an entrepreneur, they call themselves a Christian, they want to be around other people that are like that, obviously check out King's Council. In fact, fun story, because obviously the King's Council is a little different than Gathering the Kings, but when we were starting Gathering the Kings, I was searching for stuff, and the King's Council came up. And so the difference here, we're not a faith organization, although I'm very much a man of faith, and I talk about it openly here on the show and anybody who's willing to ask. But the cool part is that I remember seeing your stuff before Gathering the Kings was even official. And I'm like, good for him. Like, appreciate him. Like, I saw you on stage. Like, that was years ago. And so thank you, even from me, just as an entrepreneur. I was out there doing the same thing, all different industries, making money. Of course, faith has always been important to me, but the reality is that I got to see something cool that you were doing that now is more of maybe a God-given purpose, and you're filling that. And so I just want to encourage you. Of course, I'm sure there's hundreds of, maybe even thousands of clients that have come through your stuff that that have spoken that to you, but even from afar, from a distance, from years ago. Thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for being here. We'll put all your links and stuff in the notes for people to be able to check you out and check out the King's Council, where you're going to be with some of your next events. We just appreciate you being here, Rylee. Thanks so much, man.
Thank you, Chaz. That means a lot, man. Really appreciate it.
Of course.
Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.